At 2 p.m. local time on April 3, 2026, the weapons systems officer in the back seat of an F-15E Strike Eagle from the 494th Expeditionary Fighter Squadron is running his 9th combat sortie over Iran. 5 weeks into Operation Epic Fury, the largest American military operation since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, and the jet is pushing deep into the mountains of southwestern Iran. Ahead of him through the canopy, the Zagros Range stretches out under hazy daylight. Brown ridgelines, narrow valleys, sparse vegetation. Beautiful country if you're a hiker, lethal country if you're flying a strike mission through it. The pilot in the front seat holds course. The WSO manages the APG-82 radar, monitors the electronic warfare suite, and watches the tactical display build a picture of the airspace around them. Known SAM sites plotted on the moving map, threat rings overlaid in amber, GPS-guided ordnance hanging on the pylons. Everything by the numbers. Everything the way it's been for the last 5 weeks, mission after mission. The Iranian air defense network thinning out with every sortie, until the Pentagon started calling it air dominance. 2 days ago, Trump said it on national television.
They have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated.
The radar warning receiver that just lit up in the WSO's headset would like to file a formal disagreement. It's not a search ping, not the intermittent sweep of a tracking radar trying to sort contacts. This is continuous wave, fire control, something on the ground, a mobile launcher that survived the opening strikes, a system that stayed cold and silent until it had a shot, just went active and is guiding a missile at their aircraft. The tone in his headset is the one they train you to recognize, because you'll never forget it. The pilot brakes, the stick slams over, the G-suit inflates and crushes around the WSO's legs and abdomen as the Strike Eagle rolls into a defensive brake turn, airframe groaning under the load. Chaff blooms behind the jet, metallic clouds designed to confuse radar seekers. Flares punch out in sequence. The pilot is pulling every countermeasure the F-15 has, trying to break the lock, defeat the missile, survive the next few seconds. The next few seconds don't cooperate. The impact shudders through the airframe. Systems fail in sequence, hydraulics, flight controls, things that an F-15 needs to remain an aircraft instead of a collection of parts in a ballistic trajectory. The master caution panel lights up solid. The jet starts rolling uncommanded, nose dropping toward the mountains below. The pilot has seconds of controlled flight left, maybe fewer. He makes the call. 2 words that every fighter crew trains for and prays they'll never use. Eject, eject. The WSO pulls the handle, the canopy blows, the ACES 2-seat fires, wind blast, noise, the violent tumble of a human body separating from an aircraft at combat speed and altitude. Somewhere below and behind him, the F-15E, Panther 21, 494th Fighter Squadron, 48th Fighter Wing, RAF Lakenheath, hits the floor of a valley in Chaharmahal and Bakhtiari province and burns. The WSO's parachute opens, the oscillation steadies. Below him, the Zagros ridgelines are rising fast. And as his boots hit Iranian soil and he rolls through the landing, one fact becomes immediately and violently clear. He is alone, inside Iran, and roughly 85 million people between him and the nearest friendly border. The pilot lands separately. The ejection scattered them. Different winds, different terrain, different valleys. Both activate their survival radios. Both signals reach American ears within minutes. They're alive. They're on the ground. They're separated. And the clock is now running. The Combat Search and Rescue Alert Package scrambles from a forward base in the region. HC-130J, Combat King 2 aircraft. HH-60W, Jolly Green 2. Helicopters crewed by Air Force pararescue jumpers, PJs, the Special Operations Medics, whose entire reason for existing is to fly into the worst places on Earth and bring Americans home. A-10 Warthogs spin up for the Sandy mission, the specialized CSAR role, where the jets fly low and slow over hostile territory, putting themselves between the enemy and the rescue helicopters. The whole package pushes into Iranian airspace, in daylight. Videos will later surface on social media, filmed by Iranian civilians on the ground, showing HC-130Js and HH-60 helicopters flying absurdly low over Iranian villages, rotors churning dust off roads, close enough for people to film on their phones. The war zone will later note that HC-130J crews normally fly night at low to medium altitude levels in contested environments. The fact that these aircraft are operating in broad daylight tells you everything about how urgent this mission is. They find the pilot, the PJs fast rope down, secure the area, confirm his identity, assess his injuries, and load him onto the helicopter. But as the Jolly Green lifts, muzzle flashes erupt from the ground. Armed men, IRGC, Basij militia, or armed civilians, it's not clear and it doesn't matter, are firing at the helicopter with automatic weapons. Rounds punch through the fuselage, the distinctive snap of 7.62mm impacts on aluminum. Crew members are hit. The pilots pour power into the rotors and climb, the helicopter shuddering with each hit. The HH-60W is built for this, armored where it counts, and it flies on. But the crew is bleeding. A second rescue helicopter takes fire as well. Both make it back to base, damaged, with wounded aboard. Simultaneously, an A-10 Warthog, providing close air support for the rescue, takes hostile fire. The pilot nurses the damaged jet toward Kuwaiti airspace over the Persian Gulf before the aircraft gives up. He ejects over the water. He's picked up alive. So within a span of hours, the United States has lost an F-15E, had 2 helicopters shot up, and lost an A-10. The pilot is recovered. 3 aircraft are damaged or destroyed. Crew members are wounded across multiple platforms. And the WSO is still out there, on the ground, in the mountains, with every Iranian within 100 kilometers now aware that an American is somewhere on their hillsides. On the ground in the Zagros range, the WSO does exactly what years of SERE training, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, drilled into him until it became reflex. He moves away from his landing point. Every minute he stays near where his parachute came down is a minute the search radius stays small. He buries what he can and starts moving. Not downhill toward the valleys where there are roads and villages and people with rifles and a government-issued bounty on his head. Uphill, into the ridgeline, into terrain so broken and steep that a search party on foot would need climbing gear to follow him. He's wounded. The ejection or the landing or shrapnel from the initial hit did something. The details haven't been made public, but officials later confirm he could still walk. Every step up the ridge costs him. He's wearing a flight suit, a survival vest, and whatever he had under his G-suit. He has a survival radio, a GPS beacon, a signal mirror, basic medical supplies, and a sidearm. He has water purification tablets and whatever food was in his survival kit. He does not have a coat rated for the near-freezing nighttime temperatures at altitude in the Zagros in April. He climbs. He finds a crevice in the rock, a crack in the mountainside, barely wide enough for a human body, invisible from more than a few meters away. He crawls in. He activates his emergency beacon, and he does the hardest thing a downed aviator can do. He waits. Below him, the hunt escalates by the hour. Iranian state television broadcasts his approximate location to the entire country. A regional governor posts a bounty, approximately $60,000, for his live capture.
If you successfully capture any surviving enemy pilots and ensure they are delivered alive, you will be eligible to receive a highly significant and valuable financial reward.
IRGC ground forces are moving troops into the province. Basij militia volunteers fan out across the hillsides. Civilians with rifles are filmed on social media, searching the lower slopes and firing at any U.S. aircraft that passes overhead. But the WSO isn't completely alone on that mountain anymore. Orbiting high above the Zagros, American MQ-9 Reaper drones are watching. Their sensors, electro-optical, infrared, synthetic aperture radar, can distinguish a human figure from altitude, day, or night. And according to Air and Space Forces magazine, those Reapers aren't just watching, they're engaging. Iranian fighters who get within 3 kilometers of the WSO's position are struck by the drones. The Reapers are running a protective orbit around a man hiding in a crack in the rock, killing anyone who gets close enough to threaten him, buying time for the rescue force to assemble. The WSO lies in his crevice. He hears vehicles on the roads below, occasional gunfire as Iranian forces signal each other, possibly the distant concussion of Hellfire missiles from Reapers he can't see, killing people he doesn't know are coming for him. Night falls, temperatures drop. His injuries aren't getting better. He has limited water, no food worth mentioning, and a whole country is looking for him. More than 30 hours pass. 10,000 miles away, and simultaneously right on top of him, things are moving fast. At CIA headquarters, the agency launches a deception campaign inside Iran, through networks, assets, and channels that exist inside the Islamic Republic. And the fact that those channels are functioning during an active war will be studied by intelligence services for decades. The CIA spreads the word that US forces have already located the WSO and are moving him overland toward an exfiltration point. The goal? Make the IRGC chase a ghost. Redirect Iranian search forces toward a phantom rescue convoy that doesn't exist, buying hours for the one that does. While the Iranians chase shadows, the agency deploys what a senior official will later describe only as unique, exquisite capabilities to actually find him. The official's exact words? This was the ultimate needle in a haystack, but in this case, it was a brave American soul inside a mountain crevice, invisible but for CIA's capabilities. Whatever those capabilities are, satellite systems, signals intelligence, human sources, or something that won't be declassified for a generation, they work. The CIA pinpoints one wounded American officer inside a crack in the Zagros Mountains. The agency passes his precise grid coordinates to the Pentagon, to CENTCOM, and to the White House Situation Room, where President Trump, Secretary of Defense Hegseth, and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane have been stationed for over 24 hours, receiving constant updates. Trump gives the order, go get him, now. The rescue package that launches towards southwestern Iran on the evening of April 4th is massive. According to officials, dozens of aircraft are involved. MC-130J, Commando 2 Special Operations transports carrying the ground force, hundreds of Special Operations troops, according to the New York Times. HH-60W, Jolly Green 2, helicopters for the extraction. Fighter jets stacked at altitude, providing top cover and loaded with ordnance for close air support. MQ-9 Reapers continuing their protective orbit, sensors locked on every moving figure within kilometers of the WSO. Tanker aircraft loitering over Iraq. The entire package pushing deep into hostile airspace, into mountains, toward a fight that everyone involved knows is coming, because the IRGC has been converging on the same area for over a day. The MC-130Js descend toward a forward airstrip that has been identified and prepared inside Iranian territory. AFARP, Forward Arming and Refueling Point, a temporary strip where aircraft with short field capability can land, refuel, and turn around. Establishing AFARP inside a country you are actively at war with is the kind of thing that sounds clean in a mission brief and is barely controlled chaos in execution. 2 of the MC-130Js get stuck in the sand. The mission continues anyway because the alternative is unacceptable. The commandos insert onto the mountain. They move toward the WSO's coordinates, and they are not alone up there. IRGC ground forces have been closing on the area all day, but siege fighters are on the ridgelines. Armed civilians from surrounding villages have been combing the lower slopes for 30 hours. The US Air Force responds with what officials describe as a hail of heavy fire. Fighters overhead begin striking Iranian forces to prevent them from reaching the extraction point. Communication towers in the nearby city of Dedasht are hit, severing the IRGC's ability to coordinate its converging search teams. Reports from Iranian media describe large numbers of IRGC and Basij casualties being evacuated from what locals call Black Mountain to the hospital in Dedasht, dead and wounded from American airstrikes. The commandos reach the crevice. They find the WSO, alive, wounded, on his feet. An officer monitoring the operation from a command post describes the scene. The WSO had evaded up the ridge with Iranian forces pursuing him. American forces, Reapers and fighters, had been engaging those pursuers throughout the day. The officer's one-word assessment of the WSO's performance, in language that in the special operations community is about the highest compliment you can pay: tenacity. The firefight at the extraction site is intense. Multiple sources describe the commandos engaging IRGC and Basij fighters at close range, while simultaneously moving a wounded officer toward the helicopter landing zone. The Jolly Greens come in, rotors churning dust off the ridgeline. PJs load the WSO. Door gunners scan the perimeter. The commandos collapse back toward their extraction point under fire. Fighters overhead hammer Iranian positions to keep the corridor open. The package turns west, toward Iraq, toward safety. The WSO clears Iranian airspace in the early hours of April 5th local time. Both crew members recovered, entire rescue team out, no Americans killed during the extraction. The WSO is wounded, but will survive. The pilot, recovered 30 hours earlier, is already receiving medical treatment. Trump confirms the rescue on Truth Social. He calls it one of the most daring search and rescue operations in US history. He describes the officer as a brave warrior behind enemy lines in the treacherous mountains of Iran, being hunted down by our enemies, who were getting closer and closer by the hour. For once, the post might be an understatement. Think about what just happened. The United States of America inserted hundreds of special operations troops into a country it is actively bombing, established a temporary airfield on enemy soil, fought a pitched battle with that country's military and paramilitary forces on a mountainside, and extracted a single wounded officer from a crack in a rock. While the CIA ran a deception operation that misdirected the entire Iranian search effort, while MQ-9 Reapers killed anyone who got within 3 kilometers of his position, while fighter jets provided real-time close air support against converging ground forces, while 2 MC-130Js sat stuck in the sand at an improvised airstrip inside Iran, and while Iranian state television was offering $60,000 and telling its citizens to shoot Americans on sight. For one man, one colonel, Iran offered $60,000 for his capture. The United States spent, conservatively, hundreds of millions getting him back. Dozens of aircraft, hundreds of troops, airstrikes on a mountainside, a CIA deception campaign, a forward airfield built and abandoned inside hostile territory in a matter of hours. The math makes no sense until you understand that the math was never the point. The point is the promise. You go down, we come get you. Period. No matter what it costs, no matter who is in the way, no matter how deep inside enemy territory you are, or how many people are hunting you, or how impossible it looks from the outside. That promise is what lets a WSO strap into the backseat of a Strike Eagle and fly into the most heavily defended airspace he has faced since this war started. It's what lets a helicopter crew fly into a valley where the last aircraft to enter got shot down. It's what lets a team of operators walk into a firefight on a mountainside in Iran on Easter weekend, knowing the only way out is through. The motto of Air Force Pararescue is that others may live. The men who flew into those mountains lived up to those 5 words in a way that will be taught at special operations schools for the next 50 years. Not because the mission went perfectly, it didn't. Aircraft got stuck in the sand, helicopters took fire, an A-10 went down. The whole operation only existed because the Iranian air defenses that were 100% annihilated on Wednesday turned out to still have teeth on Friday. But in the end, one colonel who refused to be captured, one intelligence agency that found him when nobody else could, and one team of operators who fought their way into the Zagros Mountains and fought their way back out, made sure the story ended the only way America accepts. He came home. Bye for now.